Hi guys, welcome back to the Home and Homestead. If you're new, I'm Rebecca. Today we're going to be heading to the kitchen. We're going to do some baking. We're going to be using items from the pantry to help make our life easier. So we'll be doing a pantry shortcut of making some cake mix cinnamon rolls. So what this means is we're going to be using some white cake mix and adding it to a few other ingredients, and we'll end up with a delicious cinnamon roll that is really hard to tell that it's not from scratch homemade. And by using some cake mix from the pantry, it'll give us a nice little shortcut for some delicious cinnamon rolls. So let's head to the kitchen so we can make our cake mix cinnamon rolls. Now from time to time, I like to go into my pantry and make sure everything is being used efficiently and there's nothing that has a really far past date, and I want to try to prevent waste with that. And I typically have some box mixes of cakes in the pantry for when I need them in a pinch and I don't feel like making something from scratch. So I will typically have some white cake mix, some yellow cake mix, and maybe a chocolate cake mix in my pantry at any point in time. So what I'm going to be doing today is using one of my white cake mixes to make some delicious cinnamon rolls. I'll be actually using some French vanilla cake mix, but that'll be delicious as well. First, what we need to do is prepare some warm water and yeast. We're going to allow that yeast to bloom. So here I have 2.5 cups of water that I've heated in the microwave until it's about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast. It would be about 3 packets of active dry yeast if you didn't buy in bulk. And I'm simply going to stir that yeast into our warmed water. And we're going to set this aside and allow this to bloom for about 10 minutes. And then we'll have a nice bubbly top to the surface of our warmed water. Let me set this aside to bloom. Now while the yeast is blooming, we can prepare some of our dry ingredients. So in this large mixing bowl, I have 4 cups of flour. This is an all-purpose flour. And off to the side here, I have a 1/2 cup of flour, because it usually takes between 4 to 4.5 cups of flour for this recipe. And to this, I'm going to add a box of white cake mix. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using a French vanilla cake mix. That works fine as well. And most cake mixes come between 13.25 to 15.25 ounce boxes. Use whichever, both work nice for this recipe. So I'm just going to add our cake mix to our flour. I'm just going to stir that cake mix into the flour to create our dry ingredient base for this recipe. Now that our yeast has been blooming for about 10 minutes, we have a nice frothy top to our water and yeast mixture. So we can pour this into our dry ingredients. Now we're just going to mix to combine our ingredients here. And I can add any flour if necessary to help create our dough. We're looking for a nice shaggy dough because next we're going to be kneading this. Okay, we have a nice shaggy dough ball here. So what we're going to do is turn it out onto a floured surface. Now we're just going to knead this dough until we get a nice smooth feel to it and it's nice and elastic. Now that our dough is nice and smooth and elastic, we're going to place this back into the mixing bowl that we were just using. I'm going to oil it. I like to use avocado oil for this. And we're just going to place our dough ball into our mixing bowl and cover it with a towel. Now we're going to allow our cinnamon roll dough to rise until it's about double in size. This usually takes about a half hour, but we'll come back once it has about doubled in size. All right, so our cinnamon roll dough has been rising for about a half hour and has nicely doubled in size. So So what we're going to do is turn that dough out onto a floured surface. We're just going to spread out that dough until it's about 10 by 16 inches in size. I'm going to try to keep it a rectangle. You can do this by hand. You can also use a rolling pin. There we go. Next, what we're going to do is take a half a cup or 1 stick of butter that's been softened, and we're just going to spread this over the surface of our cinnamon roll dough. You're going to want that butter to be nice and soft so that it's spreadable. If it's a little too firm, you can stick it into the microwave for about 10 seconds, and that usually helps to soften the butter nicely so you can spread it. Then we're going to add some cinnamon and sugar. So in this mixing bowl, I have 1 cup of brown sugar. This is my homemade brown sugar. If you'd like to see how to make homemade brown sugar 3 easy ways, I do have a video on the topic, so be sure to check that out. And to this, I've also added 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. So I'm just going to mix that brown sugar with that cinnamon, and this will become our nice gooey cinnamon sauce for our cinnamon rolls. So I'm just going to sprinkle that cinnamon and sugar mixture onto our buttered cinnamon roll dough. Now we're just going to roll up our cinnamon roll dough. So I like to use a serrated knife, and I just start in the middle. I cut it in half. I go to one section and cut that in half. Another section and cut that in half. Now this recipe typically makes between 12 to 16 cinnamon rolls. It just depends on how thick you cut your cinnamon rolls. I'm going to do 16 today. So again, you can cut the sections in half, and then those sections in half, and then you'll have 4. If you wanted to make a dozen cinnamon rolls, you would just cut 3 nice thick sections per quarter. Now we're just going to get these cut sections of cinnamon roll onto a baking pan. I'm setting them onto the baking pan with a little room between all of them, because now we're going to do a second rise. There we go. So we have all of our cinnamon rolls onto our baking pan here. Now what we're going to do is just cover them with the towel, and we'll allow them to rise until about double in size again. And again, this takes about a half hour. But we'll come back once these prepared cinnamon rolls have about doubled in size. Now while our cinnamon roll portions have been rising under this towel, I preheated my oven to 375 degrees. And it's been about 30 minutes. and our cinnamon rolls have about doubled in size. So now what we're going to do is bake them at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes, or until the tops are nice and golden brown. So let's get these into the oven to bake. All right, our cake mix cinnamon rolls have finished baking, and it took about 18 minutes to get to this point. Now what I'm going to do is allow the cinnamon rolls to cool in the pan for a bit, then I'm going to frost them. Now you can either make your own homemade frosting if you prefer, or if you'd like to continue with our pantry shortcuts, you can use some store-bought frosting. And just like my cake mixes, I like to have a few jars of frosting in the pantry for, again, in a pinch or when I don't feel like making it homemade. So I'll allow these cinnamon rolls to cool a bit, and then I'll frost them with some whipped white frosting. Then we can come back and have a closer look and a taste of our cake mix cinnamon rolls. All right, well here we have our cake mix cinnamon rolls, all frosted, and these are ready to serve. Now these are soft and tender, and they have a wonderful flavor to them. And by using an item from the pantry, our cake mix, and then later frosting with store-bought frosting as well. But with that cake mix, we were able to help make our life easier and make a really delicious cinnamon roll. So let me just tear into one of these cinnamon rolls so you can see how soft and tender they are. And we have with this wonderful cinnamon sugar sauce in the folds and the layers of our cinnamon roll. It's really quite a delicious little treat. And by using the pantry shortcuts, we were able to make them very easily today with only about an hour of total rise time. So if you're interested in using up some cake mix from the pantry, maybe to help prevent waste, or if you just want a little shortcut to help make some homemade cinnamon rolls a little bit easier, I hope that you'll give this recipe a try. And keep watching, because I'll share with you some other tips and tricks and recipes where I use items from the pantry to help make your life easier and help make some really delicious recipes using items from the pantry as well. If you'd like other inspiration or ideas on different recipes and food preservation techniques, I do have playlists on the topics, so I do hope that you check those out as well. And if you're new to the channel or haven't done so yet, I would love it if you would subscribe. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button below and continue to watch my channel, The Home and Homestead, for some more homemade, homegrown, and home-style inspiration. Well, I hope that you're having a great day. See you next time. Take care.